It almost seemed like her husband was her beard, and she's covered up who she really is until she's no longer in politics, which shows her to be a fraud all along, if it's true. It'll be a shame, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past her because I didn't trust her as far as I could throw her.
Should we ever celebrate a woman having a midlife crisis, dumping her husband because he's facing a charge of embezzlement, and running off with a very famous lesbian? Usually I'd say not. But when that woman is a politician as evil as Scheming Sturgeon, perhaps I think differently. Take a look at Sturge, who certainly is not looking her best after everything that she has been through. Of course, the police are no longer investigating this woman. That was always predictable. She is letting her husband take the fall. So on stage with this lesbian comedian and author Val McDurd, I think her name is, I will check that, Sturgeon decided to tell the crowd, we have to apologize in advance because this has come about because Val and me, when we have some red wine, which we occasionally do, yeah, I'm sure you do, Sturge, we make each other laugh and we think we're funny. Joe, my pal, Val's wife, okay, Val has a wife. Just putting it out there, everyone. Val does have a wife. According to Sturgeon, isn't so sure. So then she went on to say, so tonight is basically just a live experience. McDermott, sorry, that's Val's last name, also said Sturgeon's up-and-coming memoir would have been funnier if she had written it as it lacked jokes. But Sturgeon added, I am a politician. Boris Johnson is in it. You can take the girl out of politics, but you can't take the politician out the girl. So when Val showed me what she was planning to say about certain events this week, I had to put my spin doctor hat on. She added, the last couple of years have been interesting. The last couple of weeks have been interesting. I wouldn't have got through the last few years without some very good pals, but also without so many of you, people I've met who come along to things like this and send me messages of support from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you for all the support. So this is Odd Father C. What do we think is going on with Scheming Sturgeon and her new best mate Val and their little comedy act?
I don't know. It's very strange. Well, I can tell you what it's not. It's not for better or for worse. She's not standing by the man that she said she would live with for the rest of her life and be insolubly combined with when two become one. She's not sticking by her wedding vows, is she? That's a great shame to see. I don't know what's going on with her and a new best friend, lesbian friend. What is she becoming a stand-up comedian now? Is this a new career path for Nicola Sturgeon? I mean, all of her policies were hilarious, but not in the way that I think she would acknowledge.
But it is a good point, isn't it, Father Calvin? Like, how sort of grim is the fact that her husband was only of any use to her when she was in politics. They ran the SNP with an iron fist. Do you remember that video of her saying, don't talk about the finances, just don't talk about the finances, just trust us. And they were a power couple and he was helpful to her. As soon as he was no longer helpful to her, he's dumped and she's off with her lesbian friends. Now that's fine. But do we really know the real Nicola Sturgeon? A lot of people, let's be honest, do cover up who they really are in order to get a head start in politics. Now, I think that's really unfortunate. I've obviously always been honest about who I am, and maybe Sturgeon has too, but the timing does just feel very odd.
It almost seemed like her husband was her beard, and she's covered up who she really is until she's no longer in politics, which shows her to be a fraud all along, if it's true. It'll be a shame, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past her because I didn't trust her as far as I could throw her, and I probably couldn't throw her very far. But all she did is destroy that country. Scotland is a great shell of what it used to be before she got into power, and I'm interested to know what's going to happen with her husband because it does seem like if you are married and you're both the power couple and you're both running this party and one of you is found guilty of embezzlement, how much did the other know? And of course, you can't be compelled to testify against your spouse, so perhaps we'll never know. But did she have some part to play in the fraudulent activities?
Well, she obviously denies it, and she is releasing her book, her autobiography, Frankly. And what I think is quite intriguing, Father Calvin, is the fact that I guess she's saying, no, 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 it was all down to hubby. Now, of course, he might be completely innocent too. I should point out, because you know I'm always honest about these things, The contempt laws in Scotland make it virtually impossible to talk about a case, which means there was silence around these whole issues for 2 years. I do find it extraordinary that still no one has actually asked Scheming Sturgeon the details about what she knew when, but again, she's able to hide behind the court case that her husband Peter Murrell is facing, because of course he does deserve a fair trial. I mean, personally, I think that all of these contempt of court laws just have to go, because what it means, Father Calvin, is that people are able to escape necessary scrutiny.
Absolutely. It's used as a gagging order or a non-disclosure agreement. It's not really used to prevent any jury or judges becoming biased against the case. And when a case is as high profile as this, it doesn't matter who's talking about it anyway, because everyone is talking about it. And so you can't say, oh, we can't let people be persuaded by public conversations, because the public conversations are going on. It's just we're not able to have them professionally as independent media or even on legacy media. So yes, you're right. We should get rid of the contempt of court cases, charges, and especially when they're used to persecute and prosecute political prisoners like Tommy Robinson.
Indeed. And Father Calvin, she has only made one public statement since being cleared. I do want to show you it, because I think it is fair that we do hear from her. Let's watch.
Thank you for coming along again today. Obviously, today is a day of mixed emotions for me, but I was advised earlier today that after a very thorough investigation of all of the evidence, there will be no action taken against me. In other words, I am completely in the clear. That is the outcome I would always have expected. As I have said to all of you many times, I have done nothing wrong, so I was confident of reaching this point and getting to this outcome, but obviously it is a relief now to have that confirmed. For almost 2 years I have had this cloud of investigation hanging over me. I think it won't surprise anybody to hear me say that's not been an easy experience, so to reach this point today is obviously something I am relieved about. I've been trying to get on with my life and I now intend to do that.
Oh, we know you are, Sturge. We know you are. I mean, look, I'm sorry, just hearing her voice gives me hives. It's like I've got Scheming Sturgeon PTSD, because I think back to those times when we were locked up in our homes, Father Calvin, and she constantly tried to create a fake border between England and Scotland, and she tried to blame English people for somehow bringing COVID to Scotland. I mean, this is an evil woman, and I know people just want to forget about her. I understand that, but I think she deserves scrutiny. I worry that her book will be a complete whitewash, because she won't talk about the SNP finances, because she'll be able to say, oh, well, there's this ongoing court case. And then I worry that she'll only do soft interviews with her mates in the media, like Lorraine Kelly, who never asks her a difficult question. And at some point, I want people like Nicola Sturgeon to face justice for what they did to us during COVID. Just put the SNP finances to one side. This woman has so much to answer for. She and those types of leaders are the reason that we are in so much trouble today.
Absolutely. Nicola Sturgeon, Matthew Hancock, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, we must never forget what these people did to us, and we must seek justice, not vengeance, but justice. But the only thing I took away from that video you just played is that after pushing all that net zero climate crisis agenda stuff for all these years, she nearly fell to her death on the extension cable, plugging her electric car in outside of her house. The irony that...
Well, if that's a reason not to have an electric car, I don't know what is. Oh, Father Calvin, we've lost you. But I was about to say goodbye anyway. The technology is against us today. Thank you so much for your company. Oh, there you are. I can hear you. I can't see you, but thank you, Father Calvin.
Thank you, Dan.
We will speak next week. But first, the reason you're watching this show is that it's becoming increasingly difficult to trust mainstream media, or the so-called fact checkers who claim to determine which facts are true. And there's good reason for that, given the debate over free speech, the controversy surrounding Brexit, and how Trump and other politicians challenging the status quo are portrayed. But I have the solution for you. It is called Ground News, and it is absolutely the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and narratives so you can get the facts for yourself. Go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. But what I want to do now is show you this incredible website and app. It's got an amazing app, which I have loaded on my phone, in action. So let's look at that speech quite recently by the US Vice President J.D. Vance to the Munich Security Conference. My God, it was amazing. He tore into European governments. He tore into the UK for a despicable retraction of free speech. And what Ground News does is instantly collate the 361 sources covering the story in one place. It then shows how that story is being covered, broken down by whether those media organizations lean to the left or the right. It is called the bias distribution service. And if you scroll down, you can see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. So in this case, quite clearly, Newsmax and GB News gave fair and accurate coverage, which you could read, focusing on how Vance finally had the guts to point out uncomfortable truths to European leaders. By stark contrast, absolutely dishonest coverage from the likes of the HuffPost and the Independent, which you could avoid. What's more, Ground News gets to know you personally, providing you with news stories you're interested in, while also analysing your own biases. So I'm going to tell you about my favourite feature. It is called the Blind Spot feed. And every day, it will surface upwards of 20 stories that you might not be hearing about because of the corruption of the mainstream media. Now, look, I know because you're watching Outspoken, you love the news, but for very good reason, you don't trust the legacy media. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is really going on. It's the only way I read the news now. It allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives without having to rely on the corrupt and captured MSM. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. I have an incredible discount at my link today. 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News, I should say, is subscriber funded, supporting my sponsors, supports my work. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all the world's news in one place and think for yourself. So this is a game changer for a news junkie like me. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now back to the show. Now, lots of comments coming in from you, of course, on Rachel Reeves in the emergency budget. Pom writes, anyone with a math A level would have done a better job than Hair by Lego Reeves. I like that. The Lady Ryan, or the Lady Rin, sorry, 47, I love this, says, Dan, just a little correction. This is not a socialist government. It's a communist dictatorship. Yep, I love that, Lady Rin. I'm totally with you. I got it wrong, and that is the type of language I use. On the Reform UK Civil War, Jack says, so making a report on Rupert Lowe, an MP, especially within your own party, was that really the best course of action, especially before council elections? Did Reform risk to compromise their stability? And that's the thing. Nigel Farage is blaming Rupert Lowe entirely on potentially destroying the party's local election campaign. But I would argue that it was the police report that did that. There are two sides to this. Jane Fisher writes, Rupert Lowe saying he'd put migrants on a Scottish island and leave them to the midges is not a wise move. Definitely not Home Secretary speakers. And that was language contained in that interview with Andrew Pearce, Tory boy Pearce, horrible man, in the Daily Mail that kicked this whole thing off. Yum Yum Chow posted, I think Farage did say after Elon Musk didn't want him to be leader that Musk was a heroic figure still. You could argue he supported Elon and promoted him over himself. Yes, that is true. I guess I would just argue that Farage was hoping he was going to be able to turn Elon Musk around. I mean, that was all extraordinary what happened in the early weeks of January. I remember I was on holiday, but in December, I'd seen Farage and Nick Candy after I'd had that meeting with Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago. They were on such a high, and I really do think they thought this was a start of a new era for the party. Then, of course, it was over Tommy Robinson. It was over the grooming gangs. It was over the fact, well, as I call them, by the way, Muslim rape gangs. Let me just be clear on that. It was over all of that where Elon Musk decided, no, Farage isn't actually the guy. And it's resulted in all of this. I really do think it has. I think there was a lot of concern within the party. Some would call it jealousy, however you want to frame it, that Elon Musk was backing Rupert Lowe to lead the party. Okay, Union Jackass time now. Your nominees: Rachel Reeves, nominated by Real Mick Cass for her dreadful emergency budget. Mick says she sounded mindless, like mindless automation. Starmer needs to get rid. India Willoughby, nominated by Anna Ireland. He said it's an insane witch hunt. Trans women have never dominated any sport. But J.K. Rowling was able to call that out as a lie today and revealed that 900 medals have been taken since October 2024 by males in women's sports category. And Kim Ledbetter, nominated by Amanda Hunter for campaigning for this assisted dying bill, and she was again in PMQs today, putting pressure on Keir Starmer to bring this bill in quickly. And goodness gracious me, I think that's a crazy decision. We actually have a tie for runner-up today. Both have 5% of the vote, which I think tells you where this is going. The runner-up with 5% of the vote, India Willoughby and Kim Ledbetter, but the far away winner as today's Union Jackass, it is, quite deservedly, Rachel from Accounts. Our greatest Britain today, and I love this, nominated by @JDFDTA, Allison Pearson, my friend, the Daily Telegraph columnist, for fearless reporting on the important issues of the day. And you know what? I was with Allison at the weekend at the Margaret Thatcher Freedom Festival, and I thought you would love to see a little bit of her speech, because she gave such a powerful speech about everything that was going on with her. Do you remember? There was a police investigation into her as a result of a tweet that she sent. It was just insane. But in her speech, she gave a very powerful update about the shocking case, and I know many of you will be aware of this case. I've spoken about it a lot here on Outspoken, of Lucy Connolly, the wife of the Conservative councillor Raymond Connolly, who remains behind bars after 2 years. Listen to what Allison Pearson had to say.
Lucy, by the way, had lost her own child, aged 19 months, and was very traumatised by that. Her husband, Ray, got home that day of the Southport massacre, and Lucy was locked in the house with the 6 little children she looks after as a childminder. Nevertheless, so she posted this very ill-advised thing. She deleted it within 2 hours. Let's remember that Labour MP Mike Amesbury, who physically punched a man in the street, knocking him down and could have killed him, recently got a 10-week suspended sentence. We are here today in the civilised purlieus of the University of Buckingham. Mrs. Connolly, Lucy Connolly, is in a jail surrounded by women who have knifed their partners to death. She is being denied her legitimate days out of prison to see her child because the governor claims her case is too controversial and commands too much media attention. Lucy, you're not allowed out to see your 12-year-old child who is so traumatised and acting out she's just been suspended from her school for speech. For speech. 2 years and 9 months in jail alongside killers and thieves for nasty, offensive, stupid, racist, emotionally regrettable, swiftly deleted speech. I would go as far to say, ladies and gentlemen, that Lucy Connolly is a political prisoner. We are seeing...
I'm really sorry if that was quiet. I hope you could hear it. That was filmed by me, by the way, so be impressed. I was at the back of the auditorium. I was at the University of Buckingham, by the way, an incredible university, one of the only educational institutes in the UK that, under the leadership of the Vice-Chancellor James Tooley, actually believes in free speech. And I had a wonderful weekend, but I just wanted to show you that of Allison Pearson, given that she was today's Greatest Britain. She actually won an award, though, at the event and received a standing ovation. Watch this. I don't know if we have it actually, but she won the Courage Under Fire Award. I think we've got it. Let's have a watch.
said Margaret Thatcher wouldn't have cried. So.
Sorry, I'm just looking in the live chat. Some of you said you could hear it. Some of you said it was very quiet. But the point that Allison Pearson was making is just that there's been so much impact on Lucy Connolly from being behind bars, including the fact that her daughter has now been suspended from school. It's just like, let that mother be back with her child. Seriously.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.